of that. It's very interesting. They want to scrap Bill 7 in British Columbia. So yesterday, I reported that EB has backed down on a lot of the Henry VIII parts of the bill, which suspends democracy and allows EB to rule like a king for 2 years. That part's being scrapped, but he wants to pass the rest of it, and Rustad doesn't want to. And so there's going to be a conflict of some kind, and we'll see how that plays out. Jaw-dropping stuff being sent from pollsters. So the 6% NDP are scheduled to get 6 seats. It's like, I can't believe the NDP is imploding as much. I mean, between Charlie Angus and Jagmeet Singh and how bad the Liberals have been, I'm not surprised that the NDP are getting punished, but it's unbelievable. So I'll show you that. It's incredible. Chinese interference to blame for Carney stepping down from Liberal leadership. Carney's going to step down from Liberal leadership? Well, it's very interesting because this whole candidate who is calling for the kidnapping and delivery of his opponent to the Chinese embassy to collect a bounty from the People's Republic of China, the communists, is a pretty big deal, right? Like, I guess you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that, which is, yeah, common sense. Obviously, you're not allowed to do that. And so he's getting in trouble. But further, there are now questions as to why Carney's not responding to this. And so all of that is interesting. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we're getting to this whole Mark Carney scandal and what's going on with rumors of Mark Carney being removed from the Liberal leadership because of foreign Chinese interference. Wouldn't that be something? I can't wait. The press conference is happening this morning. I don't know. I think maybe I'm overselling it, but I have reason to think maybe it's in the cards. Maybe. So fingers crossed, man. Alan says, unreal. On the CBC National tonight, no mention of the Chiang story whatsoever. None. Their top item was a day old report on the wheels supposedly coming off the Conservative campaign. Right. Citing unnamed sources because Pierre Poilievre is too Trumpy, or our indispensable public broadcaster. That's CBC. Right. Here's Terry, and he says, there's a story being circulated that Mark Carney won't kick Paul Chiang out of his campaign because Chiang's threatened to release some troubling allegations against Mark Carney. Stay tuned. Isn't that interesting? So that's weird. And Darshan Maharaja cites a Toronto Star article, and he says it's true. Liberal candidate in Markham is going to stay on with party despite deplorable comments about former Conservative rival. So people are very upset about this whole idea that this guy's going to stay on, and people are asking Mark Carney about it, and it's a non-starter. M. Brandt says, word on the Hill is that Mark Carney is stepping aside as LPC leader due to foreign interference in the leadership campaign. So that's this guy, M. Brandt. So, I mean, it's a small account, so take it with a grain of salt, but they're Government of Canada to provide update on the general election. So there's a media advisory yesterday for today. So Monday, March 31st at 11 o'clock. Right now is 9:41. I'm streaming and recording at 9:41 right now. So I don't know what the outcome of this is. If it's Mark Carney stepping down, the Liberals will be in complete disarray, and that'll be super fun until Chrystia Freeland takes over. Mr. Speaker, are you kidding me? The red dress comes back, right? You just never know. She's not. It's like a movie or a show where you think the big bad's dead. You're like, okay, she's gone. She's never coming back. And then all of a sudden, the hero's walking, out of some building or something like that, and in the background you see movement. You're like, oh, that's Chrystia Freeland in the dress. She's there. She's gonna get you. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see how this whole thing plays out. Location, National Press Theatre, blah, blah, blah. There's a question and answer period. It says Government of Canada representatives from the Security and Intelligence Threats to Elections site task force will provide a technical briefing to media to update on the general election 45. So maybe it's nothing. Maybe this guy's overselling it. Maybe it's something. If Carney doesn't step down, I'm going to be very disappointed. But again, take it with a grain of salt. That would be huge news that probably would have leaked by now. If that was happening, there probably would be more than just one or two small accounts talking about this. If that happens today, my jaw will be on the floor. It'll be a big upset. Although I think in line with expectations of in normal times, if you're backing the candidate who says, hey, anybody who wants $1 million, go kidnap my opponent and deliver him to the PRC. Beijing would love to have him. That's improper, and you shouldn't still be the candidate, and the party leader should remove him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the fact that the party leader's not, and there's questions about at least 10 other MPs who may be supported by China, and now you're not going to pull this guy for saying that? There's questions, very, very big questions, and hand waving it away is not going to do it. Here's Poilievre being asked about this. Garnet Genius likes this response. We're going to listen to at least a minute of it, maybe more. The question is first, and the guy's from international media, and Poilievre lays it out. I think this is about the Chiang issue. Here we go.
Good morning, Mr. Poilievre. Thank you for having me. I'm Terence Shen, independent journalist covering foreign policy and global affairs. Recently, Liberal MP Paul Chiang suggested that someone could hand over your party's candidate, Zhou Tai, to China in exchange for a bounty from the communist regime. Many people saw that not only as a threat to Canadian citizen and political opponent, but also legitimizing foreign interference in our democracy. What's your response to his remarks? And after his apology, do you still believe he should be disqualified from running for office? Thank you.
Yes, he must be disqualified. I find it incredible that Mark Carney would allow someone to run for his party that called for a Canadian citizen to be handed over to a foreign government on a bounty, a foreign government that would almost certainly execute that Canadian citizen. Think about that for a second. We have a Liberal MP saying that a Canadian citizen should be handed over to a foreign dictatorship to get a bounty so that that citizen could be murdered. And Mark Carney says he should stay on as a candidate. What does that say about whether Mark Carney would protect Canadians? Mark Carney is deeply conflicted. Just in November, he went to Beijing and secured a $250 million loan for his company from a state-owned Chinese bank. He's deeply compromised, and he will never stand up for Canada against any foreign regime. Is another reason why Mr. Carney must show us all his assets, all the money he owes, all the money that his companies owe to foreign hostile regimes. And this story might not be entirely the story of the bounty and a Liberal MP calling for a Canadian to be handed over for execution to a foreign government might not be something that the everyday Canadian can relate to because it's so outrageous. But I ask you this, if Mark Carney would allow his Liberal MP to make a comment like this, when would he ever protect Canada or Canadians against foreign hostility? He has never put Canada first.
I think it's less about putting Canada first. I think it's more about being compromised by China. Like you could make a lot more hay with compromised by China. Can't possibly stand up for Canada because he has a mortgage in China. He owes money, or his company owes money to China. And he says blind trust and all the rest, but sure. Here's an NDP person responding to this with Jagmeet Singh beside her, because the NDP have collapsed in the polls and they're at 6%, and they figure, shut that guy up. Let's have somebody else talk for now. So here's another NDP talking about the China situation, Chiang, and so on.
From my perspective, the comments from the Liberal candidate, Paul Chan, is absolutely astounding. He is a police officer, and he ought to know that when the CCP went out and put a bounty on anybody, including Canadians, that cannot be acceptable. That is intimidation at its worst. And yet, he played right into it. He advocated for people to bring him to the Chinese consulate to collect the bounty. In what universe is this normal? And especially in the face of Canada, where we're faced with foreign interference, active, sophisticated foreign interference activities targeting Canada's democratic institutions. We saw from the Hogue report a significant mention of transnational repression. That's what's happening right now. And it doesn't matter if it's a candidate, it could be anybody. And the fact is, Canadians are faced with that. People from Hong Kong who are fearful of their lives and that of their families. For example, people who speak up against the communist China's repressive regime are fearful for their lives and that of their families. That is what transnational repression looks like. And
we had Michael Chiang was targeted. There's all sorts of very, very concerning things swirling around China. And it seems like Mark Carney is saying, nothing to see here, everybody. Move on. We're going to talk about something else, anything else. And if you look at the polls, it's working, right? Because Poilievre is collapsing, I guess, just as much as the NDP are. Bruce says Mark Carney doesn't want to kick out Paul Chiang because it opens the door to pesky questions about the 11 MPs named as witting foreign assets in the NSICOP report. If Paul Chiang is mentioned and Mark Carney let him run anyways, then Mark Carney is in a lot of trouble politically. We need to know before the election if this is the case. And again, this goes back to, is there more to see on the announcement today, or are they just going to bury all of this and move on? All of the news reports are pretty well burying it. It's not something that, well, here's CTV talking about this. They were forced to, but it's been a couple of days since it was out in the newspapers, and the BeReal media, us, have been talking about it, and it's taken them a while to actually talk about it. But one of my stories yesterday is that only the National Post was picking this up. So the media is slow to pick this up, and it doesn't seem like they want to cover it. And if they're slow to pick it up, it's not like they're going to be on this dog on red meat or any of the other things you want to call it. But here's Vasi Kapoulas talking with a guest. I'm not sure who the guest is, but she's talking about this as well.
This is the pressure to boot him is going to continue.
Absolutely. Vashi, look at just what has happened. You mentioned that Paul Chiang made these comments in January. But since then, China has executed 4 Canadians, right? Mm-hmm. So we still remember very clearly what happened to the 2 Michaels. What is significant about Paul Chiang's comments in regards to the Conservative candidate, is that Joe Tay is considered a democracy activist. He's been outspoken on his YouTube channel in terms of pointing out all the ways that the Hong Kong government has violated civil rights. So the point of the matter is that the Hong Kong government, Hong Kong police, basically does the bidding of the Chinese Communist government now. They are acting on behalf of China. So right now, the fact that someone could say that, even in a joking manner, that perhaps someone should turn in Joe Tay to the Chinese consulate, first of all, not a joke at all. And the other thing is, we have to remember that democracy activists across the world have been kidnapped by Chinese agents and basically disappeared into the prison system and possibly executed. So Mark Carney has to act. The Liberal Party has to act on this, because not acting shows that they are not taking foreign interference seriously and are once again turning a blind eye, perhaps in the future, to meddling.
Mike, what are you watching for the Conservatives this week?
Wondering whether or not they'll pivot to go harder into Donald Trump.
I wanted you to see the last part there where he says, they're going to pivot to go harder into Donald Trump. Did you hear what she just said? Did you hear anything that she was just talking about? Oh yeah, the conservatives are going to ignore all of that from the supposed frontrunner with the whole China thing and lean into Orange Man bad. That's my advice to the conservatives. Give me a break. Holy cow. National Post is reporting, if you can take him to the Chinese consulate general in Toronto, you can get the $1 million reward, Liberal Paul Chiang said of Conservative rival Joe Tay. Brad says, my criticism of the Chinese Communist Party's horrific human rights abuses, actions to undermine our democracy, and attacks on Canada has earned me repeated threats and ongoing harassment, including towards my family. Regardless of your partisan inclination, it's incomprehensible that a candidate for federal office who called for their opponent to be turned into a hostile foreign country in exchange for money would continue to have support of their party and leader. Is there absolutely no line that may not be crossed anymore? Right. Like, if the leader says nothing, where are the rest of the Liberals? Where's Marco Mendicino? Eh? Where's Karina Gould? Where are these principled people to stand up against foreign interference in their own party? Nowhere to be found. Oh, I'm shocked. Here's me and shocked face, right? Give me a break. So I'm not shocked, because these people will do exactly what they're told, because they're all serving the same master, and it ain't us. Okay. I tell my daughter not to use the word ain't. I'm sorry, everyone. Son of a bench says, Quebec Bloc leader asked about Liberal MP Paul Chiang. Blanchette, should do audiobooks. The guy has such a, silken voice. Like, listen to this guy's voice. It's crazy. He's got it's a very listenable voice. If I was listening to audiobooks, and I do listen to audiobooks, I would listen to his voice. Here we go.
Everybody has to come very transparent and clean and open about everything, but, you know, there's so many things that we do not know about so many candidates, which appear to be a problem. But there's so much we do not know about the liberal leader, which is no better for democracy.
Right? If that's a cliffhanger of a suspense novel, right? There's so much we do not know. I'd want to hear more, right? That's a page turner. So it's interesting though. He's talking about Chiang and he's saying, you know, there's a lot of stuff we don't know and what's going on here and so on and so forth. Here is Melissa. She says, this is J Ma getting out of a very expensive car in a very expensive fur coat, right? And this is a guy, J Ma. That's a like male, right? Is he male? He looks male. He walks male. The shoes look male. The hair, I'm not so sure. The fur coat, I'm also not so sure. Is that a merce? Anyway, it's a cultural thing, I guess. They wear merces in China. Anyway, J Ma, son of one of the richest men in China, Jack Ma, being dropped off at the University of Toronto. Don't tell me China doesn't control Canada. J Ma, Jack Ma's son, China's richest man, spotted being dropped off at the University of Toronto in a Rolls Royce. So, right? Eyebrow raising, very eyebrow raising. Dr. Richard says it's been estimated that Asian students make up 41% of U of T's total student population. I've been there. The engineering and science departments are almost 100% Asian. White students make up between 27 and 37%, mostly in the arts faculty, where they are taught about their racist ancestors and why their replacement by Asians is good for them. Most white guys are homosexuals. The walls are full of radical leftist posters, and more than half of the academics are feminists. The administration gets huge amounts of money and funding from China. So there's something going on here that is not obvious. I want to jump ahead. We've got election stuff to cover, but I want to talk about kind of the death of democracy in Europe because it's really important and it plays into what's going on in Canada. There are serious issues. The NDP are talking about these serious issues. The CPC are talking about these issues. Everybody's talking about what's going on with the leadership of our country turning a blind eye to China's continued interference in our democracy, and that's concerning. But what's even more concerning is, and I've said this before, if you start to win, if you're effective, they're going to try and do what they did to Donald Trump to you. They'll do everything they can, up to and including fire guns at you, in order to get you gone. And Marie Le Pen has just been the latest to join the club. She's been found guilty of, embezzlement. And so she's no longer, and her punishment is house arrest and not being allowed to run in the next election. So you bad person, you. How dare you embezzle money, right? And now you're not allowed. And, you know, just by happenstance, this is what the court says. Can't run in the next election. So what are they doing? They're trying to uphold democracy. Sure they are. This is France, right? Amuse says, democracy? France has just convicted the leading presidential candidate of campaign finance violations. Marine Le Pen awaits sentencing of up to 10 years in prison and a 5-year ban on running for political office. French court finds far-right leader Marine Le Pen guilty in embezzlement case. So even if you had, and yesterday we were doing a kitchen table talk, and I was saying, even if you had the People's Party, and I said, you know what, take the political charge out of it and say any party, if you elected 100 or 338, 342 or whatever it is, independents, they would get the same pushback. Those people don't represent the globalists, and so it would be near impossible to get anything passed. The Senate, which Justin Trudeau stacked, would not give royal assent to the bills. There would be a way to take down the people who actually want to do something, and they'd corrupt the rest of the independent legislature in order to continue their bad policies, because the bad policies keep some people rich, and those people, they want to stay rich and they really like spending $1 billion a month or whatever amount they spend. And that's to, you know, that includes all the spraying in the skies and all the rest of it, right? So anyway, this is what they do to you if you win. If you win and don't play ball with their ideology, don't allow them to just take over your country and you turn a blind eye to it, then you get taken out, right? In any way possible, lawcraft, lawfare, assassination, whatever it is, they take you out. Okay. Here's Bernie. She says, Marine Le Pen has been found guilty of embezzlement with a possible sentencing banning her from elections. When did third world dictators pull these stunts, the United Nations intervenes. This time, the UN is cheering it on. Yep. Inevitable West says Le Pen was expected to win the next presidential election in France by 18%. France just barred her from running. Democracy has died in Europe. It's been dying pretty reliably for the last 5 or 10 years, but in earnest in the last couple. Pascal says Marine Le Pen's sentence is to ineligibility, unable to run for elected office for 5 years, with provisory execution, meaning the sentence must be served even during appeal. Inexplicable, the judge only said it appears necessary to impose provisory execution. $100,000 euro fine, 4 years of imprisonment, with the first 2 years to be served under house arrest and the remainder suspended. Vincent is talking about her being convicted as well. So Mike Benz says Estonia just banned 80,000 Russian ethnics in its population of just 1.3 million people from being able to vote because they never organized a massive protest on the streets to show support for Ukraine. So this is the quote from the article that Mike Benz is sharing. He says, Medlev believes that the current circumstances, revoking the voting rights, was the right decision. But he says the situation would be entirely different if the Russian-speaking community has shown its loyalty to Estonia and support for Ukraine after the war broke out. For example, if on February 28, 2022, there had been a massive protest on the streets of Tallinn organized by local Russian-speaking residents, and the protest had been held in Russia, said Medlev, if there had been far more people loudly trying to embrace Estonia's efforts towards inclusivity for Russian speakers than everything we're talking about now, this very constitutional amendment would have been unnecessary. So if only they had come out on the streets and supported our war, right, then we wouldn't have to remove their voting rights. Wild. Absolutely incredible. Real News says Conor McGregor posted "We are at war" in reference to the government's open border policy. The next day, 3 children and their carer were stabbed outside their school by a migrant led into Ireland by the Irish government. The Irish DPP might charge Conor McGregor for his post. The migrant that stabbed the kids still hasn't seen a courtroom. 2-tier justice. So they're going to use their speech laws to crack down on anybody who points out the reality of what's going on. Here is using mass migration to change the voting demographics of the United States. This is Elon Musk and one of his team. And this is a long video. It's almost 7 minutes, but this guy's explaining what they found and what that means to voting. And I think like all of this we need to understand because all of this is in play in Canada and has not been uncovered.
Yeah. This number, what this is when you come in the country, if you're an illegal, there's a couple ways to come in. You come in through a port of entry, and you can tell them you're afraid, and they'll give you an asylum case. You'll get an interview, then you get in. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just go to the border. Literally, this happened. I talked to Border Patrol myself. Elon was there too. I went to Laredo, and I went to Bronzeville. Elon went to Eagle Pass. You walk up to a Border Patrol officer, and you tell them you want to come in. They have a couple of choices. They could charge you with a misdemeanor or a felony under 1325, or they can make it an administrative offense, like a parking ticket, basically. They were told to do that, make it an administrative offense under the last administration. And then you go walk across the border, they do what's called a release your own recognizance, and they give you an NTA, a notice to appear, which to appear to judge. The wait times on judges are like average 6 years. Look at Grok, you'll see it on immigration judges. There's only 700 of them. This is 5.5 million people, okay? So what happens then? Once you're in the country, and you got asylum through one of these pathways, and we mapped the whole thing out, you can apply for a work document. You file a 765, it's the work form. You get this form called the 766, that's the authorization, and then Social Security Administration automatically sends you in the mail your Social Security number. No interview, no ID. This is worth just reiterating. It's not people sometimes think that under the Biden administration that he was simply asleep at the switch. He wasn't asleep. No. They weren't asleep at the switch. It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States and disenfranchise the American people and make it a permanent, deep blue, one-party state from which there would be no escape.
Look, if I hadn't seen this myself, I'm not sure I'd have believed it. I went through it myself and mapped it, and Elon is right. This is true. The defaults in the system from Social Security to all of the benefit programs have been set to max inclusion, max pay for these people. and minimum collection. That's what's happening. We found 1.3 million of them already on Medicaid, as an example. We've gone through, on every benefit program we went through, we found groups from this particular group of people, this 5.5 million people, in those benefit programs. And then what was really, really disturbing us was why. We're asking ourselves why.
Right.
And so we actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records. And we found people here registered to vote. In this population, yes.
And who did vote?
And we found some by sampling that actually did vote. And we have referred them to prosecution at the Homeland Security Investigation Service.
Yeah.
Already. That is already happening. Right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's happening in Canada. Not the prosecution or anything like that. People are coming in, they're getting max benefits, not having to pay anything, and they vote. And they're not supposed to vote, but they vote anyway. And that's part of the fraud. And I've been calling our elections rigged for a long time. They're still rigged. Very rigged. Very, very rigged. That's my professional opinion. Bad Hombre says, turned out J.D. Vance was 100% right to criticize Europe's descent into woke authoritarianism. In 4 European countries, candidates and parties have been banned from elections, sometimes even after winning the first round decisively. France is the latest. So Le Pen, Germany's far-right ADF party, has been expelled from European Parliament group, and Moldova to ban pro-Russian party members from running for election, and Politico reports far-right frontrunner blocked from Romanian presidential race. So I've been reporting on these kind of as they come, but as they collect up together, it paints a very, very concerning picture. So are our democracies really democracy? Are we defending democracy? Or are we defending a rigged system that puts some people in control and we don't even realize it? I mean, I realize it. I see it, that it's not, we're playing a different game than our leaders are playing. And they know they're playing a different game than we are. And that suits them just fine. Does our checker game impact their chess game? Not really, right? And so it's very interesting, because the more people who realize that we're being manipulated and managed, the less people participate in their system. But it's all rigged anyway. So they can fabricate participation. And I mean, can I prove that nobody voted? Like, that would be very difficult for me, right? So anyway, let's do our election coverage, because there is lots of election coverage to look at. And I think it's important, so I'm going to do my best to be quick, but we're going to have to cut off the stream soon. So sorry about that, everyone, but we'll carry on for now. Lori says, frontrunner's campaign. So Carney is collapsing. And I mean, if he doesn't announce his removal and stepping down today, he's going to have some serious questions to answer. This doesn't all just go away. If he steps down, the Liberals are basically accepting a third or fourth finish, because, I mean, it's very difficult to replace your leader on day 8 of a campaign, of an election campaign, okay? And to have that leader in place, I mean, jeepers creepers, they'd have an interim leader. And as I said, it would probably be Chrystia Freeland. But it'll be hard to sell the Liberals as winning the next election, because they're not a stable party. So if Carney's gone, that's going to cause problems for the globalists who want the Liberals, but no problem, because Poilievre is a globalist too. So they'll put him in. It'll be a different vehicle, but it'll be very similar destination, unfortunately. But again, if Mark Carney doesn't step down, or if this is a nothing burger this morning, and it might be, really might be, then he's going to have problems, because all of this is going to continue being questioned on the campaign trail. It's not going to go away. It's going to get worse. The questioning is going to get louder. The scandal is going to grow. So we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. Brian Passafume says, they're sure trying their hardest to keep Mark Carney away from reporters while he's in Ottawa, because he doesn't want to answer questions about the scandals, because there have been a lot of them already, and it's only 8 days in. And apparently he's surging, but no. For immediate release from the Liberal Party, March 29th, Liberal leader Mark Carney will meet with community members in Ontario on March 30th, and closed to media, March 31st, closed to media, right? These are two March 30th dates, one at noon and one at 7 p.m., and they're both closed to media. So they're keeping him away from all media, and that's continued through the weekend. Today is the 31st. Yesterday was the 30th. Mackenzie Gray says, I'm back covering the Carney campaign for week 2. It's been a quiet weekend for the LPC leader, who opened his campaign office Saturday and will have 2 private events today. No questions since Friday. We're on our way to Toronto in the freshly wrapped plane. So they've got money to wrap their plane, but they don't have money for $75,000 for a debate? Poor. Brian Lilly says, in yesterday's Journal de Montreal, there were 4 pages devoted to Mark Carney's Brookfield and his odd connections. Let's say it wasn't flattering coverage in Quebec's biggest paper. So the Liberals may be losing their shine in Quebec, maybe, but I mean, the Bloc are scheduled to have it, but we'll see. But there's lots and lots. It's French, so if you speak French, check that out. It's not easily translated, so otherwise I'd read a bit of it. But it seems like the highlights are going after some very interesting parts of the stories, stuff that Mark Carney doesn't want to talk about. And it's interesting. Like, do you think that an expose like this will matter in English Canada? Right? Like, it's all French language, et cetera, et cetera. And while it may have great information, the Liberals may lose some seats there. You know, there's back and forth. Legault's saying that we should vote for Poilievre for culture and community and control of the immigration in Quebec. So is Mark Carney going to be taken down in Quebec, but really insulated from the rest of Canada? Do you think English publications will pick this up? I don't think so. I would be surprised if they did, right? So we'll see. I'm tentatively, no, I'm not convinced that it's going to matter. Anyway, if they keep him, they're going to insulate him and appoint him, right? Like, if they keep him after today, then all bets are off. The whole thing's rigged. I mean, the whole thing's rigged anyway. Here's Joe Warmington. He says, what do you call that when someone takes another person's work and presents it as their own? There's a word for that. I just can't remember. It's just on the tip of my tongue. Plagiar somethingism. Mark Hardy says, I will immediately cut taxes for the middle class. We can't control President Trump, but we can help weather the storm. So if he's cutting taxes for the middle class, but also doing dollar for dollar tariffs, the dollar for dollar tariffs are a tax increase for us. So talking out of both sides of his mouth, saying on one side of his mouth, I'm going to cut taxes, but on the other side, dollar for dollar tariffs, which increase taxes. So which one is it, sir? These questions aren't going away. Roy Green says, a must read by Kevin Kline. Mark Carney is hiding his globalist agenda. Canadians should be worried. Yeah, I'm worried. I just look at him. He looks like a corpse, for crying out loud. Jeepers creepers. If I had $1 billion, there are things I would spend my money on if I was, $1 billion in teeth like that. Academic here, says the food professor. At first, I dismissed the plagiarism accusations against Mark Carney as conservatives just digging up dirt. I didn't see the point of it after 30 years, but I'm a little more concerned about it today. Here's why. First of all, plagiarism is a serious issue in academia, and unfortunately, it's sometimes normalized. When I was at the U of G, I was responsible for academic misconduct cases for about 2 years. During that time, the number of cases rose from about 10 a year to 140, not because students suddenly became less honest, but because we as a college simply decided to start clamping down. It's similar elsewhere, not just at Guelph. What I learned was that most people who commit academic misconduct are typically repeat offenders, right? Like Mark Carney could be a repeat offender, right? I've also managed a PhD program myself and have supervised many doctoral students at several universities over the last 25 years. With that background, I can say with some confidence that when a thesis falls short, especially at the doctoral level, responsibility doesn't lie solely with the student. Supervisors, examiners, and the program itself are all accountable. In Carney's case, I did look at the thesis. Yes, it fits the definition of plagiarism, but it reads more like sloppy work than deliberate cheating. Still, the fact that it passed reflects poorly on the program. That's likely why his supervisor is now defending the thesis, because she shares responsibility. What really got me thinking, though, is the reaction to the accusation. Why is the Liberal Party flooding social media with community notes defending him? Carney has an impeccable CV and could have simply dismissed the accusation, as I did initially. But now I'm wondering, is this part of a pattern? We've seen behavior like this before. Somebody said in the comments yesterday, Carney plagiarized 2 logos. Carney plagiarized the whole platform from the Conservatives. He's plagiarizing left and right. Like, repeat offender doesn't even begin to describe it. He is absolutely a repeat offender. I don't have a better term. Darn. Anyway, moving on. But he's doing this, and yeah, like we're right to be concerned. And this is not the only thing that we should be concerned about with regards to Mr. Carney. Now this story is on the front page of the largest daily newspaper in the United Kingdom. It's not a good look. In essence, Carney's thesis is sloppy and does not merit a response, primarily from Unifo Oxford, but also from Carney himself. He may need to explain, if only to reassure the public. After all, he is our prime minister. So yeah, well, he's doing a piss poor job, isn't he? So interesting. And this I thought was interesting as well. The Liberals under Mark Carney are not denying that they want us to eat bugs. Liberal Party says, Mark Carney, we will stand up to Donald Trump and build a stronger economy. Pierre Poilievre, we will not eat bugs. And so, yeah, like, I don't want to eat bugs. Are they going to eat bugs? Like, it seems like they're probably going to eat bugs. And that's weird. Like, that's not great. That's not a good outcome. Here's CPC News. Pierre Poilievre says Mark Carney loves to brag about his experience. Here it is. Plagiarism, tax evasion, creating creative accounting, abusing tenants, union busting, moving his headquarters out of Canada to the United States, denying insurance claims to coal miners dying of black lung, taking massive loans from Chinese state-owned banks, advisor to Justin Trudeau on the economy. So there you go. That's, that puts it kind of out there. Is this person really surging in the polls, or are the polls fake, just like they were for Kamala Harris? Pierre Poilievre says, introducing the Canadian First reinvestment tax cut, no capital gains tax when you reinvest proceeds in Canada, bring home billions of new investments in home building, factories, mines, small business, and make our economy independent from the Americans. Canada First. We've had years to do that, and nobody's done it. And nobody's making any moves now to do it, despite all the rhetoric to say, yes, do this. They're not actually doing anything. Blair says, well, at least we still have the wood. Let's bring home Ottawa South. We got this. Let's show them vandals. And so there's more signs being targeted. It's bigger news this election than when PPC were being targeted. So that's weird. Ryan says CBC is putting out fact-checking videos on what Poilievre says. I noticed they have no fact checks regarding what Carney says. Interesting. Rigged elections. Rigged elections. That's a rigged election. Okay. Maxime Bernier says, and this is our PPC stuff, he says, this is the cold truth, folks. And he's responding to Matt. Matt says, I've been working on the front lines of Canadian immigration for 12 plus years, thousands of cases, thousands of people. And in all that time, I've probably met a few dozen real true refugees, people fleeing serious persecution, people with no internal flight alternatives, people who couldn't rely on their own governments for protection, people who had no choice but to escape. And they come here? Yikes. Did you tell them how terrible the Canadian government is? The rest are bogus, people gaming the system, people coached by consultants, lawyers, and ghost agents, people using the refugee claim process to buy time, people using it to get work permits. That's how the system is built now. There's a whole process to move through: the RDP, Refugees Appeal Division, judicial reviews, humanitarian applications, pre-removal risk assessments, up and down, back and forth. One refusal leads to another lifeline. One loss becomes the trigger for another delay. Eventually something lands, or people just sit and wait. The system has been softened over the past 10 years. Liberal policy has taken a protection mechanism meant for the truly vulnerable and turned it into a bloated process that people profit from. Lawyers, consultants, NGOs, everyone has a role in keeping it going. And all of that money is motivation. All of that money is incentive to keep it going, right? If they lose that, they lose their job, right? And they like their cushy job, right? So we end up back to this with tens of thousands of failed refugee claimants awaiting removal, now repackaged by the Liberal government as unauthorized workers or undocumented migrants. We've taken something that was supposed to be exceptional, protection for the truly at risk, and turned it into a mainstream pathway. Gaming the system, failing the process, and staying anyway has become completely normal. There's an election coming, and there's a real opportunity to ask what kind of immigration system we want in this country, one that works for the people, it was actually built to protect, or one that keeps rewarding those who've learned how to cheat it. And so anybody who is part of cheating it has a vested interest in continuing it. And so they're going to make up bullshit in order to justify continuing the bad program. Bernier says most refugees in Canada are fake. They should all be deported. Yep. Honestly. And why is he the only one saying that? Right? Like, is that something that shouldn't be said in Canadian politics? I think it should be said a lot more. Holy cow. So everyone on the stream, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow. And for everybody else, hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful